Alright. Can everyone hear me fine? Turn this off. Looks like we got some people in here potentially, maybe. Not anymore. Y'all left. Okay, that's fine. Do this. Let me pop out the chat. Perfect. Thank you for responding. Pop out chat. So we know what things are happening. Can talk to all y'all lovely folks. Good. Alright. Anyone want to tell me which game I should be looking at right now? Looks like we're about to end round 4. And let's see if this will work. Perfect. So all of y'all see that. Do we have anything that I can play here? Sure. Let's take a look at this one. Come on. Alright, there we go. Perfect. Thanks for anyone that's joining in currently. We are watching stuff. So we have in the 4th round here an Akisha that looks like they're about to win with the Katagir deck. Unfortunately for the Bravos Kojo player. Oh man, a lot available here. They're already calling the GG, it looks like. Unfortunate. I think the thing was messed up, but now you can see it better. There we go. One advance away, calling the GG from the Kojo player. Probably looking at a quick game here. And yeah. Game over. Good job, team. We get to hear a little bit of the in-game stuff. All right. Let's switch back here. As you can see today, I have my co-caster Waru. If anyone wants to replace Waru at any point, just let me know. I can tell him to beat it. But in the meantime, he's going to stick around here. He's not much of a talker though, so you're probably just going to hear me speak. Just a little heads up there. Yeah. There, let's move this here. Maybe dropping frames? No, we're not dropping frames? Okay, cool. Still live. All right. Yeah, thanks for anyone that's still around. Obviously, I'm a little bit late. We're going to wrap up round 4 here shortly. This is week 12, I believe, of the A.W.O.L Wednesday tournament. Yeah, so we did just wrap up round 4, and we are on round 5. We currently only have 2 undefeated players, so let's just go straight into watching them. No point in messing around. Thanks for anyone that's joining. Good to have y'all. It's a Freeloader versus Makoni currently. And yeah, we'll wait for that to load as I pull up it here so y'all can wait with me. I'm going to put that full screen so it doesn't look funky. Yeah, loading, refreshing, and we're in. All right. Good to have everyone once again. So we have a Kojo player potentially vying for the top spot here. I like it. I like it a lot. Um, and of course, we see a Sigismar player. Good start with the Kojo, getting the Haven Bravos Bastion out. But also potential for a double advance here from the Sigismar player, which they don't mind as well. Let me actually make this here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Sorry about that. All right, now you guys can see everything. Got Waru here with me again, like I mentioned. For some reason, we're stuck on them holding their teamwork training. I assume, oh, they're teamwork training themselves for some reason. I assume that was a misclick. There's no reason why they'd want to teamwork training themselves. Unfortunate, but what can you do? Yeah, double mistake. It was a mistake. Had the potential to 2-0 there, but did not work. Yeah, I was able to look a little bit at that today while I was at work. Um, Honestly, like the alt arts, I think it was the Axiom one that obviously caught my eye. It looks like it had a lot of different colorful crystalline structures as far as the alt art is concerned. Um, for the reward, it's one of the landmarks, I believe. But as far as like the actual OP packs themselves, I think it's good that they remove the commons. I'm not too. I don't have as big an opinion as some people as far as the lowering of the unique rate. But I don't think it's that bad either. And I think a lot of the similar things that people mentioned as far as like the alternate arts that are available where they have some issues once they get what they need it's kind of doesn't matter a little bit and you're looking for mostly uniques. I get what they mean by that, but at the end of the day I think the OP packs are all just a bonus, and there, to be honest, there are a lot of people that just don't get the OP packs anymore, um, compared to others that can make it to a bunch of local events. I have plenty extra because I go to too many events, but I'm at the point of where I wouldn't mind giving some away, just so that people that who haven't gotten them before could get a chance to at least get them virtually at capacity. But yeah, overall it looks cool. I'm excited about the Tumult Championships that they got set up for individual stores. I I mentioned it on Discord, but I'm a big playmat nerd, so yeah. Yeah, yeah. And realistically, I don't think it's a huge deal because we're probably looking at less variety of uniques in comparison to Beyond the Gates. So yeah, nothing crazy. But yeah, getting into the game, we got the Kojo Booda turn. They're just looking to advance once, it seems. And they get their save second Haven out, pretty big. I don't know if they wanted to hit the Isenboshi, but not the best, but still not horrible. I guess they could still play it next turn, give someone else some boosts. But yeah, lets them keep resources, which a lot of Bravos players have issues with once they play everything out. Um, the Tiny Gen will be super helpful for that as well, because it will allow a little bit of mana reserve here. Um, yeah, and get that. Essentially, by getting stuff to your mana, you're getting an extra draw. Because at any point you can just decide not to mana a turn, unless you're trying to ramp into something specific with your Bravos deck. But yeah, either way, Sigismar is able to use that second teamwork training at this point. It's a good one to remember that 2 teamwork trainings are down for the Sigismar to advance 1-0, and also get the ability of the draw on the attorney while not allowing the Buddha to advance. Yeah, Tumult Champ should be fun. As long as the stores stay consistent, it'll be pretty big. Right now, I'm trying to keep 3 stores active in my area, which is not is a little bit difficult. One's pretty consistent because they want to do it on their own, and the other two you have to kind of run yourself. And usually that's the way you got to do it. The store owner themselves isn't super interested in maintaining. You just got to offer, and all they have to do is supply the actual physical space, right? So yeah, not the best spot for the Sigmar here. They are granted they are ahead, but they have used two of their teamwork trainings. They're gonna want to probably utilize as much sabotage as possible on the Bravos player. But yeah, either way, huge Isin with a 2/2/4 in the double haven. But we do see the attorney come out. A specific ad we've seen in a lot of Sigismar decks nowadays, even though you do not get the sleep effect you would with Waru. Just a little bit more draw, and it's kind of a deterrent from certain players wanting to win that side or stop you from winning because you just get easy card draw. And a 2 cost for 2/2/2 is always nice. Interesting, adding some more boost to the Isimboshi really doesn't want the Sigismar to potentially double advance here. I don't think the Kojo would be hurting to want to double advance themselves, even if that means giving the attorney a draw. But at this point, with that Ozma, they're probably not. Oh, yep, they're just going to go for the 2-0. Nice physical training. Honestly, you don't see a lot of rare physical trainings set up these days, which of course in Bravos gives you a draw, as you guys can see there. Um, but yeah, good play overall from the Bravos player to keep up. Pretty even as far as cards around at this point. Handed advantage slightly in Sigismar's favor, but they also have Bravos player has 2 cards in the reserve, so nothing crazy. I'm sure they'd like to have more characters, but the physical training is not a bad one because it also allows the draw. Kojo is still choosing to mana despite being up 1 mana. Feels like they have the ability to do so. Again, interesting to see that we see a Kojo in the top 2 potentially here. Fun to see a Bravos player potentially take it. Waiting on the Kojo player to figure some things out here. Once again, I want to thank my co-caster, Waru, who's down there. Not a big talker, but pretty face, so it's like easy to have him on here. We will see a pretty big boosted Chiron, though, for a measly 2 cost. I imagine the Sigismar here is gonna want to try to advance on at least one side, and yeah, the spy is pretty big. I think he probably would have preferred to hit a character if possible, but that will prevent the draw. But we do see a rare tiny Jin, or mighty Jin rather, which is huge for the mountain stat, which they're competing for. And I'll also be curious to see if the Kojo player decides to immediately mana it or will take the draw. I'm assuming they're going to take the draw because they do have 2 Havens out and they can get a double boosted Mighty Jin um, to play next turn. And potentially risk at it getting sabotaged, but I think it's probably worth the risk. Another draw for the Sigismar, but this time with the Baba Yaga. They are behind, though, on both expeditions, so we may look at another Kojo and Buddha double advance, which will be quite big. And they will have similar card setups here with 3 cards in hand for the Sigismar, 1 and 2 in the reserve at this point. They're going to have to get rid of 1. And then should be 3 cards total available for the Kojo. So they'll get the draw from the Mighty Jin to get that 3rd card in hand, and only 1 card disadvantage, but has 2 Havens out, and realistically could choose not to mana at any point. Waiting for decisions to be made here. Sigismar are trying to decide if they are going to mana. There. But, and then we're just waiting. Kojo mounting as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bravos in general. I guess I'm quote unquote a Ordis main, but my heart lies with Bravos a lot of the time. I'm a big Sadi fan. Kojo is like one of my favorite decks when I first started the game with like Foundry Kojo. But yeah, big Ordis Spy though here from Sigismar, which is pretty crucial against this matchup, especially with two teamwork trainings already being used and only one left in the deck. We will see a sabotage of their own coming from the Kojo player, just choosing to go to the opposite side, not trying to compete on the hero expedition. Uh, Curious to see if they target the spy or the Ozma as far as draw is concerned. They're going to go with the spy to avoid any, or at least less competition um, on the companion expedition. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We do see the Legat come out, another bureaucrat edition that we see in the more meta decks for Sigismar these days. Or just finding a way to use those bureaucrats even if they're not asleep. And they will be able to use the Ozma here as well to get a draw and potentially advance if they want to. But we'll see. Yeah, so they're going to have to decide here as far as getting the draw, and they will not advance here. They'll probably still play to get the draw, and they'll also have a sabotage, which will be nice. Play it on the hero side, really didn't matter where they put it. Just trying to confirm the hero expedition with 3 mana left on the Kojo. A lot of 3 costs available here for the Kojo. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they just decide to pass here, but they are going to play the red to get that in reserve. They will have 2 characters in reserve to benefit from the Havens. I assume it's probably going to be at least the red. They may decide to keep the Pathfinder at this point based off of the locations that they're at, whereas normally I would think they would keep the Sabotage slash Bouncer lady, but they decide to keep the red. Interesting. Don't feel confident in keeping things going there, so not too bad. Just going full on stats. They are 2 expeditions up, so they can afford just to go 1 and 1 like they have been doing. Continuing to decide to mana, even at 9 mana. I typically don't see a lot of Bravos players curve much higher than this. They usually tend to pass, especially when they are starting to run low on resources. They can also afford to do so, but maybe there's something in hand that they felt like they couldn't use. Well, thank everyone that popped in here late with me. This is the only undefeated folks here in this Wednesday setup. It is only round 5 though, so technically we could go to a BGA tiebreaker at some point. We do see another sabotage with a bouncer coming out of the Kojo. Big hit, preventing that token production. Interesting seeing the rare spy come out of the Sigismar. You don't see those a lot anymore. So interesting to see that. I'm pretty sure that was the second rare spy that I've seen at this point, which makes me think they potentially have 3, and makes me wonder what rare slots that you typically see in Sigismar that we're not seeing in this one. Sigismar deciding to compete on that companion side, realizing that, hey, I can't afford to be going 1 and 1 at this point. But it's going to be pretty difficult to compete with the double Haven that they got pretty much turn 1, turn 2. Again, good point to make here. The Sigismar has used 2 teamwork trainings and has used 2 of their Ortis spies as well. So the bigger advantages for the Ortis character, especially against the Bravos matchup, are kind of dwindling at this point, and they're going to have to rely on characters, it seems like. Good play here by the Kojo player, just guaranteeing that companion side at this point, it seems like, unless there is another teamwork training, that final one available. It seems like they have a pretty good shot at taking that side. They may potentially lose the hero side, but they're fine if that means that they don't get sabotaged. Interesting play to play the Baba Yaga by the Sigismar. Hopefully they have another character to completely stop the advance from the Kojo. Otherwise, they won't even get the effect of the Legat and still advance. Yeah, they're going to play the charge. So they'll at least block. But they are giving up another 1-for-1, which puts the Kojo in prime territory. They will not be on a Buddha turn, but they do just need to take one, and they will have at least one character in reserve to benefit off of the Haven. But they are running low on resources. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them not mono this turn. They'll probably want to use all 4 cards that they have available to them. They are currently ahead based off of an earlier Tiny Gen play, but we'll see what they do. That misclick early by the Sigismar, making it really difficult for them at this point. If anyone doesn't know, they used the teamwork training on day 1, and they had to remove their own character, preventing themselves from getting to 2-0. They'd be at least one more advance at this point, potentially a 2-0 away from winning. But instead, now the Kojo is just 1 away. And they are deciding to split still here and avoiding the just piling up on one side, trying to make the Sigismar think that they might pile and forcing them to use characters. Should be interesting to see what the Sigismar has in hand. Right now we only have hand cards left, nothing from reserve. I assume they're probably going to want to save removal for the very end here if they do run into that third teamwork training that they have. 15 cards in their deck, now 14, so they may or may not have it. Probably looking at both of the cards in hand being played here by the Kojo. Because their advantage isn't getting any better at this point. They may decide to just play one card, that way they have 2 cards in reserve for next turn, since they can't really lose this turn. And put the onus on the Sigismar to play everything that they possibly have and go into a Buddha turn with 2 cards in reserve and 2 Havens out, which puts them in a good spot. We do see a unique Amelia Earhart, though. If you control 4 or more characters, resupply. So just getting a little bit more as far as what's going on. And we do see that third Ortis Spy, and it is also a rare. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. We will see them to be able to play it. But at this point, let's see, will that get them up high enough to block on the hero side? Yes, but they would also have to block on the right side as well, so they're just going to use their second charge. Which will be enough to block and help them advance. So good play overall by the Sigismar to stay alive, but this does put them in a bit of an awkward position because we're going into a Kojo turn and with fairly even resources at this point. We do see the immediate discard. No decision there for the Kojo. They knew exactly what they want. The good old Tomo goes in with the effect of being able to be played as long as you have 7 or more mana orbs, or more than 7 mana orbs. Big stats, though. Big decision, though, here by the Sigismar, deciding to get rid of the Ozma, opting for pure stats, or potential on stats at least. And the Amelia Earhart does play from anywhere, so they can also potentially resupply if they can get enough characters out, which they should be able to with the Spy and their token that they create. Let's see if the Kojo decides to mana. Decides not to mana here. Big choice. They're still 1 mana up. Yeah, it was just a mana play, so they didn't really have to make a decision for the Tiny Gen. That's why it was quick. So it was just an automatic thing. Morgan covered that there. Which is why they're up 1 mana still, when they decided not to mana before, and not mana this turn as well. So ramp does definitely help out Bravos. It's a kind of way of getting around the fact that it doesn't have card draw. Sigismar is going to try to stack up on one side. They're going to have to cover both, though, if they want to prevent the Kojo from winning. And Kojo's doing a pretty good job on going wide here, putting a lot of stats on both sides. Tomo goes in at a 4/7/7 with the double Haven. It's a huge monster for only 3 costs, and they also have 6 cost on the companion side between the Chiron and the Buddha. We will see the unique Amelia Earhart coming out again. As I mentioned before, if you control 4 or more characters, this includes itself, you can resupply. We do see the Tiny Djinn come from hand here, just add a little bit more on the mountain stat where it matters, and force the Sigismar to play something over there. Be interesting to see if the Sigismar has enough in hand to stop the Kojo from winning. Ooh, and we see the big Haven Warrior come out. Pretty good stat stick for 3 costs. We do see the GGs come out. It doesn't look like they have anything. And a big win for Bravos here. Saying it's undeserved, but even with the misplay, I feel like it's a pretty good win for them. And technically, with the misplay, it potentially would have just been the same anyway. I guess they would have had another teamwork training to play if they didn't misclick. But either way, great play by the Kojo player with Freeloader. Now all they need to do is win their 6th round, and they will be the champion for week 12. Good game, good game. All right, we are in week 12 of the Wednesday Altered Weekly Online League, aka A.W.O.L. With me, I have my friendly neighborhood bureaucrat, Waru. Doesn't talk much, but good to have him here. Thanks for anyone that's joining. That was the undefeated folks in round 5 of this week's tournament. Let's see if we can find another game to watch before round 6. Just so we have some time filled up. All right. Let's go ahead and see what we got here. We can look at number 12. Let's go back. See if we got any things up. Go to game. Let's see if it's playing. It's very close right now. I'll go ahead and pull it up for you folks just so you can look at it, even if it potentially doesn't. We don't get to see it played. Really big Mage Dancer available. We do have a unique Spindle Harvester, one of those amazing Spindle Harvesters. It's a Winnow Leave the Expedition Zone, so it's not a Dusk Spindle Harvester, which everyone likes. We also have a unique Moon Caregiver. You may return a spell from your reserve to your hand on play, and when you play a spell, if I have 2 or more boosts, I gain 1 boost. So it's a booster. And then we also have a unique Moonlight Jellyfish that has a bunch of text. Basically, it seems like it's a sacrifice jellyfish. If you control a landmark, you may return a card other than me from your reserve to your hand. I do think this is a Katagir Akesha, but with no Katagir out, which makes me think that it may have gotten removed. No, it just hasn't been played yet. Interesting. So, nothing there. So, yeah, we'll see how it turns out here. I'm sure the Akesha would love to get off a Katagir at this point. And if they do have it, I don't believe the Faunus can stop it. It doesn't look like the Faunus has a small step at the moment, although that would just help them win the game immediately. We do know at least one Celebration Day was played by the Akesha. We see the Helping Hand, though, being used to just boost up that Disciple to potentially try to advance or prevent the Kesha from advancing. We do see the category come out, which makes me think we're probably seeing a celebration day here. It gets turned. And, ooh, Celestial Blast, actually. Wow. Interesting play. In case you guys aren't used to that, it lets you discard up to 2 targets, including characters or permanents, and lets you draw a card if it's in the rare version. So, fun card. And since we did use the rare category, it has no fleeting, put to the reserve, but doesn't matter because they get the double advance. Interesting. You don't see that many Celestial Blasts anymore. So, fun little match to watch there at the end. All right, we should be coming up on the end of the round, potentially round 6 here. Let me get out of that. Yeah, very cool ending. Glad we were able to jump into that one. All right, going back to the setup here. We are in round 6. We could watch Freeloader. Let's see how many other one-loss people we have. We currently have 2, 4, 6 one-loss people. So if Freeloader loses, we will go to a tiebreaker. But we can take a look at some of the other players potentially, since we just watched them play. I believe McConey would be the winner if they ended up winning at this point. So let's go ahead and look at table 2 with Gino and McConey. Wait, we just saw McConey lose, right? So probably not. Never mind. JK. What else? What else? I'm noticing some names I'm not used to seeing, so maybe we'll look at one of them. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it does catch people off guard. You don't really expect the Celestial Blast a lot of the time. One of my early decks with the Kesha used Celestial Blast with the category, but I found that it wasn't as consistent as Celebration Day, so I am surprised to see it. Let's just go this one. This one's running right now, so we can do this. This is one of the one-loss players, so maybe not. It's not working either. Well, this is no fun. Here, let's try this one. Waiting for them to choose their factions. We get a Traced versus a Sigismar potentially here. So let's go and pull this one up. I'll go ahead and fix this so y'all can view. All right, Trace versus Sigismar. The oppressors of the early meta once Robin Hood got eroded. So should be interesting to see. We have here, we have Westville versus Mark. So don't believe I've seen either of these players played that much, so it's cool to watch this. Thanks again for anyone that stopped by here on the last round. Potentially looking at a Kojo take it all. But we're seeing if any of these games turn out good. We do see a unique Keylon Elemental. You may put a card from your hand in reserve, so typical ability, and you may return a card from your reserve to your hand. So it kind of just goes in and out, and so that's a little fun way to get a counter, I guess, for Traced. It's a good one. Haven't seen one like that before. So yeah, here we go. Get a counter early for day 1 for the Traced, always a good plan, and they double advance. So definitely not hurting at the moment. With just the Baba Yaga played by the Sigismar, only able to advance 1. We have 2 mobile players here, so fun little fun fact there. They have the exact same ELO at 264. we will see the Baba Yaga come out early. I imagine we'll see here. We use the quick effect on the Keylon Elemental, which is you may put a card from your hand to reserve. And the Ada Lovelace is definitely a good one to put to your hand to reserve because we get a counter and now we get another counter with the Ada Lovelace that's going to be able to put another card to reserve, and it's the Ada Lovelace, and they get the draw. This is about as turbo as Trace gets. We'll be able to play at least one more card and put another card in reserve, and we're probably looking at a Trace being triggered the next day, maybe even this day, depending on what they drew from the previous Ada Lovelace. Could always use a quick effect just to get the Traced effect. We'd be looking at a day 2 Traced. That'd be fun. Still no Haven though, so they are just relying on the base stats of their cards played, which will allow the Sigismar to double advance here. The question is, do they want to block? They don't. We get a double advance from Sigismar and a single advance from Traced, so we are all even at this point. But the Traced is one card away from having the ability ready. But a lot of cards in hand for Sigismar at this point, so not hurting for cards available. So fairly even match at this point. I think it'll really depend on if the Trace can get out a Haven anytime soon, or if they can use their hero ability to start digging for one at the very least. So they will immediately get a card out, get that 5th counter, and they're ready to start drawing themselves. Sigismar follows up with their own 1 cost. And we see the Trace ability pop out, and we see that 3rd Ada Lovelace at this point come out to put a card down and get another draw. They're really digging for that Haven at this point, I have to imagine, not being able to see one. And we'll see the Tooth Fairy come out early here. Usually, it's interesting they decide to put it down. Typically, you want to keep Tooth Fairy in hand, or Tinkerbell rather, not Tooth Fairy, I'm dumb. Tinkerbell in hand until you use the Traced ability, so that way you can surprise your opponent. But yeah, interesting they decide not to. Another interesting play from Sigismar, with the Ozma being played without having 3 other characters out, they will not get a draw. So at this point, it looks like they're just setting up here, for a teamwork training play, and they'll be able to potentially double advance here depending on what's in the Trace hand. And it's nothing. So double advance for the Sigismar, huge play. Not having the Haven is really hurting the Trace at this point. I'll be curious to see if the Sigismar decides to go ahead and play the Ozma right away to avoid the sabotage, or they're just going to let the Tinkerbell just sabotage away. All right, we're going into the next day here. Day 4, I believe, with 6 mana, and we see the Grand Endeavor come out. Big play by the Sigismar. Usually this is a one-off in Sigismar decks. It has tough too, so it's tough to get rid of. It will pretty much guarantee that he'll get 1 advance every day. The question is, for the Trace, can they get a double advanced right now in order to put themselves in the position to win the next day? Because they will need to win on the next day in order to prevent the Grand Endeavor from having the Sigismar win. Big play to knock out that Ozma. 1 less resource for the Sigismar. We'll probably try to play the least expensive thing here for the Traced, just to get the double advance. They're going to go ahead and use the Keylon Elemental, save as many resources as possible. They do get the double. Now they will need to double themselves here to avoid a Grand Endeavor win by the Sigismar. Probably the best scenario that they could hope for as far as Sigismar is concerned to play Grand Endeavor. I believe most Trace only run maybe 1 to 2 booms that would be able to take care of that, and that would take a lot of mana at this point. So doubtful that we'll see it. So I assume we'll see the Trace focus on trying to win here. They're going to need the 2-0 to take the match. I'm sure they want to hit a Haven. They still have not played one of them, so I'll be curious to see if they have one in hand or what's going on there. We see the Dr. Frankenstein come out, but without a Haven, it's just a big stat stick for 2 costs, which isn't bad, but obviously not ideal without a boost. Either way, we're probably looking at a quick game here, so we'll be able to switch over to another match here. We do see the card draw coming out with the Baba Yaga and putting the Sigismar up on the hero side. At this point, the Sigismar can just pile on one side and hopefully advance. And even if they don't advance, just prevent the trace from double advancing, because the trace needs to double advance. We see the 1 cost Ymir Stargazer come out. It helps, but it doesn't put them ahead. And at this point, they're just going to have to out-resource the Sigismar, which I don't know if they have the capability of doing. That only puts them at a tie, and they're probably only looking at 1 other card to potentially 2 cards played. And all the Sigismar really needs to do is play 1 more card and force Westwill to play on the hero side. And I think that's a GG. Good Grand Endeavor play by the Sigismar. Yeah, Westwill's just going to pass. They know it's a GG, and that'll be a game. Fun game. I don't really get to see the Grand Endeavor played that much, so I'll take it. So yeah, let's switch back real quick, and then we can go look to see if we can watch another game before the end of the round. We should be able to. That was a fairly quick one. See if we got the top game still playing. Wow, so Freeloader actually lost against Neon in the setup here. So that means we will be looking at a tiebreaker. Let's switch over so all you folks can look. Yeah, we will be looking at a tiebreaker to decide who is the first place for this week. So that's pretty big. So let's take a look at table 2 here, potential folks here that would be involved in the tiebreaker. We have Gino and Makoni. We saw Makoni play, and then Gino, the infamous Trace player themselves, has 2 Havens out, looking pretty good. But we do see an Obelisk out here from Makoni. You don't see the Obelisk that much anymore, but pretty cool to see. A lot of resources, though, available as far as low-cost cards for the Trace player. Looking at least advancing on one side, potentially trying to contest both. We do see the Legat come out that we've mentioned before. Will get boosted. So the Trace will have to watch out here if they are going to just tie on the hero side to not get sabotaged too much here and lose all the resources, because they're going to need cards to be played from reserve. They do play the Ymir Stargazer. That will put them a little bit behind. They'll need the Amelia Earhart to go ahead, but at this point, 3 mana left with the Sigismar, so they could definitely still play something. The Amelia Earhart would take the Trace ahead on the hero side, but we got to imagine the Sigismar has something else to be played here. And they do go ahead and play a Gatekeeper that gets boosted. It will not have them win the companion side, but it will help them get a character on the hero side in order to do a one for one potentially. Coney's calling a GG. Am I missing something here? Unless there's another 1 cost in the Trace hand. They could definitely, I guess, still win, but at this point, the Amelia Earhart would just put them at 10 green, which would not be enough to advance, and it would be a 1-1. Oh, you played terrible today, Flemish? What were you playing? Tino's not playing here anything yet. Be curious if they do have something in hand, it wouldn't matter. But at this point, they're just going to hold off and keep the Amelia Earhart for next turn. Big play, especially if they're planning on keeping resources here. So decided against it. Didn't have the one cost in order to win the game, so just going to take the free 4/4/4 into next turn. Oh, freeloader. Yeah, I was really happy to see you play. We were watching you in round 5. Disappointed that you didn't get the final win of the day to lock it in for the Bravos folks, but you know it happens. You still might get the win depending on BGA tiebreaker. I'm not sure. You have a decent matchup here. Another Trace versus Sigismar. We have a Sigismar with the Monolith out, and we have 2 Havens out for the Trace. So Boost's going crazy. A good gatekeeper here, especially on the mountain terrain, will help them get fairly far ahead on the hero expedition. So we're likely to see Trace just try to balance things out and win the companion expedition, but we'll see. Yeah, no, for sure. It was cool to get you to watch you play that one game in particular. I know you were saying you didn't think you should have won that round 5 with that misclick, but I still think it was pretty close, and you definitely had the opportunity to win. You played that as best as you could to take that game, so cool to watch. We do see the Ozma come out here just to guarantee the hero side. Interesting that the Sigismar is choosing to not compete on the companion side. It's probably because they're running low on resources in comparison to the Trace. The Trace, we do see a unique out. Let's see what it is. It's just resupply from anywhere. When a robot joins your expedition, you may discard a card from your reserve. If you do, you may return a card from your reserve to your hand. So it's good just for the resupply. I don't imagine they have a lot of robot interaction here, but we'll see. Yeah, no worries, no worries. It was good gameplay, good to watch. It's fun to see new people and new heroes do well. We do see the Sigismar just stack on that hero side, just trying to guarantee wants to go to a tiebreaker. It seems like has no interest in setting things up. We will see the Trace just immediately decide to use the ability, get something in reserve. Question is here, when that unique salvager comes down to reserve at the end of the turn, are they going to do anything? Oh, and it looks like the Trace is going to make a play now here, potentially. They decide to hooked to the hero side. I'm not sure. Is there a way that they win here? I'm confused on the hooked play. Not sure what the reason was for that. They were going to win that side anyway, right? I guess they still have 2 mana, so they could still play something else here. They decide to do themselves. Oh, so they want to resupply again because they know they're not going to be able to play. Interesting though that they would use the hooked. I don't see the reason why they would need the hooked in reserve. They get another salvager out. I'm confused on the hooked play. It feels like the hooked would have been nice to just have to mana potentially, because obviously it doesn't really matter at this point with the tiebreaker. But interesting. If anyone knows, I'd be curious to see why the hooked was played. We're probably not looking at any mana happening here potentially for the Traced. They do have a lot of low cost cards and they probably don't need it, but we'll see. We do know that they played at least 1 Keylon Burst on their own character, and they are going to decide to pass on the mana. I said pause because I was saying mana. I had the same inflection there. Anyway, 2/2/2 token from the Sigismar ability with the benefit of the Monolith. We are even on mana itself. Salvager comes out, gets double boosted, gets the resupply. Ooh, that's a good one to hit with the Ada Lovelace. That'll be helpful with the resources. We do see a unique Haven warrior come out. When I go to the reserve from the expedition zone, create an artist soldier token in your companion expedition. So at this point, it's just a stat stick. It's not going to really help at the moment. So it's probably the Sigmar's probably running low on resources here. So we may be looking at a pretty good trace victory. We do see the trace activate ability, put Amelia Earhart to reserve, go ahead and place Ada Lovelace to put another card to reserve and draw a card here. So a lot available for the Traced, and it looks like the Sigismar is running low on what they have. Again, wants to thank anyone that's still in the stream, get to watch me, especially because I was late. Long day, but you get to see me in a fun collared shirt from work. Anyway, we see the Ozma being played, not waiting for the draw, which makes me think again that the Sigismar is just holding what they have in hand as a secret. They're not really playing for any draw. They just want to put as many stats, and we're probably looking at some type of removal, most likely a teamwork training, I have to admit. But with as many low cost stuff as the Sigismar as the Trace has, I don't know if it's going to matter. Let's take a look at that unique you just played though. From reserve, you may put a card from your hand in reserve. If you do, I gain 1 boost for each card in each player's reserve. So it's an Anansi effect on a Jian, but it helps boost itself. So that's a big stat stick that's going to help in the tiebreaker. I can't imagine there's much left here. We do see a charge being played. 1 mana left. I don't think there's really anything left for the Sigismar. We do see the GG from the Sigismar with Gino, the Traced that always plays Traced and is really good at it, putting a bunch of stats on the board. Still has 1 mana left, can play the Ymir Stargazer. Don't know if they will, but that'll be game. Good game to watch. And I imagine we should be coming pretty close to the end of the round, and we'll see the tiebreaker on who is going to go ahead and take the win after, unfortunately, Freeloader does not guarantee it for themselves. Let's go ahead and go back here. I'll switch to here. You can watch me and Waru talk a little bit. By talk, I mean just watch me talk as I mess with OBS. We'll take a look here. We are not done, so I guess we can pull it back up for maybe watching one last game here. Let's see who we got left. Two games running still. Any preferences? Any preferences? Or should I just pick real quick? Pick real quick? All right, let's pick this one. All right, what do we got here? Another Trace versus a fellow Kojo player. Always fun to watch a Kojo player play. Fairly even, although the Kojo is contesting against a double Haven Trace, so it's not looking too good, especially with only having 2 cards and only having 1 Haven themselves. Ooh, and there's a Keylon Burst that's going to take out that big stat. Bravo's Vanguard, I imagine. Yes. We'll likely see the Pathfinder played here. Trace just needs 1 advance, so looking good for them. Decides to play the Pathfinder on the Forest. Not the best place to play it, but you know, gotta do what you gotta do. 1 cost Amelia Earhart. The Trace still has the ability to be played. That's the last card for the Kojo. Will be enough to block, but we're likely to see another Trace card being played here. That's just going to let them advance the one that they need. It's an Ada Lovelace. That's all they need at this point. Decide to play it on the hero side as a bit of a haha gotcha, I'm assuming. Because they can just play a bunch and they want to double advance at this point. But probably could just pass. There's nothing really they can do. We see a GG, and that'll be the end of this one. Yeah, they're just a little BM, you know, just take the 2-0. And no big deal. There. Trace takes the win. We get to jump in on the last there. Unfortunate for the Kojo. All right, that should be pretty close to the end here. Let's see if we run into the tiebreaker decision. Drum roll, please. Still not done. We still got one more game. The other one that I didn't click onto. Let's see if it's still running. It is still running. Oh, and it's a good one too. Let's go ahead and pull it up. One last game. Get as many games in as possible since I was late, right? Appreciate everyone that's sticking around. We got a Navenka versus a Kesha. I'm assuming this is a category Kesha. Bunch of cards in hand. It's even looking to favor the Kesha at this point, but you never know. I've seen some Navenkas pull some stuff out. Only 6 mana though, which is interesting. What does the Kesha have in reserve? Interesting setup here. Yeah, not sure how they got so many cards at hand, and still be even on the tumult. So interesting. Do you see a unique Robin Hood here? 2, you may discard target character with hand cost or less. Oh, that's cool. Fun Robin Hood. Finding a way to use Robin Hood after the errata. Side note, I think unique Robin Hoods in Waru that have certain abilities are actually quite good if you want to keep playing Waru. Especially with Traced and Aphanis being pretty meta at this point, or just one cost in general being pretty meta. But yeah, anyway, we do have the Navenka on the play here. They are 3 mana down, so they are low on resources, but I'm assuming they're going to be able to play everything in their hand, but I don't know if it's going to be enough with how much available that Kesha has. We'll see an Esmeralda here to get a resupply in. Hathor is a good one to have in reserve if you are trying to return things. Kesha, a lot to play with here, and it's going to go big with the Sakuraru. Says, I don't want to be even anymore. I just want to be ahead on the Tumult. But that will be a heavy mana cost here, and they will only be able to play 1 more 2 cost. Nothing in reserve with that 2 cost, so it will have to be something from hand potentially. And it's realistically potentially giving the Navenka a free advance on the Hero Expedition. So unlikely play unless they were that afraid of the Navenka being able to double advance. Might have wanted to hold on to that Sakuraru, but you never know. I can't read their minds. Do see the Hathor being played, choosing not to save it for a card return at this point. And just wants to stack up here to have some more stats. Looks like we froze up a little bit, but maybe I need to refresh. Yep. All right, let's do that. All right. 5 stats just for the mountain. Wants to guarantee it. Looks like the Akesha potentially just passed, and so we may just be looking at a free 1-for-1. Which the Kesha is fine with. They are 1 away, and they could just have a small step. Who knows? Maybe that's what they were afraid of with Navenka, having a small step themselves. We'll see. It shouldn't have mattered though, because the Kesha would have had first turn play on the next day, so they could fall a small step first, but I don't know. We'll see. Kesha on the play here. If they have small step, it's a GG. If not, we'll probably see an after you. I'm guessing. I don't know. Will we see the Navenka actually mount on here? It seems like they've been holding on to their cards, and they are holding again. Interesting. They must have a low mana curve just to hold on to 6. That's not an ideal spot. I mean, I think the lowest that I typically would like to hold is like 7 or 8, but 6 is doable, I guess, if you have enough a low enough curve. We do see the After You being played by the Kesha, so no small step giant leap. Waiting to see what the Navenka has, because at this point they only have 6 mana, so they're likely only able to play a few cards. We do see that Martingale that all Navenkas love to play. Now the question is, do they have an all-in? Do they have other characters that'll help them? We see another pseudo after you by the Kesha with the Disciple. And they could also just draw again with the Sakurabu. A lot of options here. We do see the Esmeralda being played by the Navinka. This is more than likely going to be the last game of the evening, folks. We are looking at a tiebreaker to decide the winner. It will be one loss. There will be no undefeated player. See and off you go from the Akesha. Once we're done with this match, we'll see the results, and I'll let you all know what we got. Big Cernanos play, though. That's a good stat stick to have. And then we see a Celestial Blast. Jesus. It won't matter for the Navinka ability at this point, because Celestial Blast just discards. Interesting Celestial Blast plays that we've seen from Akesha players. I'm not used to seeing them at all. And that will just let the easy 1-0 for the Kesha, just too much mana at this point for the Navinka to be able to catch up. And yeah, that'll be it. That is the last match of round 6. And so we will now see the results. How has BGA decided who won? Yeah, it's weird. 2 Celestial Blasts. Not used to that. Fun card, but not usually ideal. All right, we are loading up the tournament results. Let's take a look here. Drum roll, please, once again. And here we go. Despite the loss, Freeloader able to take the W with the first place. Just had the harder opponents that they took wins against, apparently, for BGA. So, yeah, Freeloader taking the win on the Kojo. I believe this is one of our first Kojo victories on A.W.O.L, at least on Wednesdays. I know that for sure. Yeah, Pog indeed, man. Pog. We do have March in second place. I believe we got to watch them play as well. Neon in third place, which took down Freeloader in that final round 6. So deserved third place for them. Gino on Traced that we got to watch. Luciano in 5th place. Wasn't sure what they played. Maconi we got to watch as well at 6th place. Westwill we also got to watch for a little bit on 7th. And Henner in 8th place. And then too bad for Keelan guy. This is what you get for playing instead of casting with me when I'm not here. You get 9th place. I don't know what you played. I'm assuming it was probably something funky like you normally do. Anyway, just wanted to make that point. But yeah, interesting matchup. Thanks for everyone that decided to join. Congrats to Freeloader taking it and representing all the Bravos and Kojo players. Proud of you. Only way that I would have been more proud is if it was at Saudi, but you know, that's just a dream. Not every we're probably not never looking at it and it's Saudi #1 spot, at least in this current meta. But you know, we do our best. At least you're Bravos. Big fan of Bravos. Probably right up there as far as like favorite factions. But yeah, thanks for everyone that decided to join. Want to thank my co-caster down there, Waru. He's a quiet guy, but he's a good-looking one. Especially now that he's having to rely on model work. Now that he's no longer dominating the meta. So pretty face, beautiful flowing locks, if anything. And Mac, probably one of the best and cutest little side guys as far as heroes are concerned. Anyway, yeah, we're always sleeping, but looking good doing it. You could say he's a sleeping beauty. We should, which we might do. Is Sleeping Beauty public domain? Can we get that altered? Anyway, yeah, thanks for everyone that decided to join. This has been week 12 at this point of the A.W.O.L setup here. For all you top 16 folks, I want to remind everyone you are qualified for like the final A.W.O.L invitational event. Make sure you join. I know this has been a long season, obviously, and some of you may not be around anymore. You're not sure, but go ahead and join in. It's fun. We want to get as many people involved in that as possible. I'm in there too. I made a top 16 when I the one tournament that I joined because I'm it's Saudi genius in North America. I won't claim it worldwide. That's reserved for some other Saudi players that I took inspiration from. You know who you are. Anyway, this has been Blue. Thanks for everyone that stopped by. I'm going to go ahead and shut things down here. Short stream, obviously, since I showed up late, but a solid hour. And we'll talk to you later. And be sure to watch my teaser for my Trial by Frost reveal on my channel, Blue Oak TV. You'll like it. And I'll be revealing next week on this day, Wednesday. Yeah, no worries, Morgan. Thanks for stopping by and talking in the chat. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm heading out. Talk to you guys later, and I'll see you in play on the next day.